And thanks for coming back to the channel. It's been a little while since I posted a video, but there's a subject that has come up in some conversations that I've had, and in reading some opinion pieces by anti-gun people, all trying to get to emotions. And the subject is on weapons, right? And you'll hear weapons of war and weapons of mass destruction. Uh, and the argument is, and they tend to conflate together depending on which anti gun, anti Second Amendment person that you talk to. And that is, civilians don't need weapons of war. We don't need weapons of war on our streets, etc. And then the other one conflates the AR platform or the AK platform, anything that looks like that, or uh, magazines that hold more than 10 rounds, that kind of thing, as weapons of mass destruction. So you have them conflated. Let me deal with the weapons of war subject first. All weapons are weapons of war. All of them. Whether we can carry them as individuals or not physically, all weapons are weapons of war. Anything that can be used as an arm, and an arm defined in U.S. law is something that can be used offensively or defensively. Offensively in a legal manner and defensively in a legal manner. So all things that can be used to defend or be offensive or defensive can be or are classified as arms. A stick, body armor, a knife, regardless of type, a firearm, an axe, a katana, whatever. An arm is an arm, and an arm is something that you and I would carry. All arms are weapons of war. All arms have been created to kill another person. And in America, civilians have the right to carry arms that can be used to inflict deadly force on another human in a legal way. That means kill them. That means kill them. One can argue that what intent, once a decision is made to use deadly force against another person, your intent is to use deadly force against that person to stop the threat, right? And if one uses deadly force against another, death is highly probable. So it's not even a use for argument in whether or not the person who is using deadly force intends to kill the other person. They intend to stop them from harming or killing them. If they die in the process, sucks to be them. So all weapons or anything that can be used offensively or defensively in America are considered arms, and arms are protected by the Second Amendment, period. And we have a right under Heller and Bruin to carry those arms in public. And yes, other people, if they see us carrying arms in public, they know that we have the capability to deliver deadly force if necessary. Okay, weapons of war. All arms are weapons of war, right? Because they're intended to be used against another person. I don't care if it's a stick, spear, hatchet, blade, gun. That's it. What about weapons of mass destruction? And people will want to conflate a machine gun, for example, as weapons of mass destruction. They are not. They are not. They are arms that happen to send freedom rounds, freedom seeds really fast downrange. I'll talk about their tactical use in a second. The difference between weapon of mass destruction and a weapon of war, all weapons of mass destruction are weapons of war, but not all weapons of war are weapons of mass destruction. The difference is really simple. A weapon of war that is not a weapon of mass destruction, its use is targeted. In other words, it is a discrete target, right? You are deploying that weapon of war in a discrete, targeted way to a building, to another human, to a vehicle. It is you are targeting a specific thing. That is not a weapon of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction are indiscriminate when deployed. It takes out everything in its path. There's no discriminate targeting. What are they? Bombs, gas, various types of bombs, it doesn't matter what kind. Hand grenades, for example, are indiscriminate, right? You might throw it at a person, but if there are other people around, you see what I'm saying? That's a little version of indiscriminate. Now, some infantry people and some military people might want to argue that, and that's okay. But that's the little version of weapon of mass destruction. The bigger version is something that, when deployed, there is no targeting of specific individuals or specific buildings. Right? Now, one could argue that not a Stinger missile, but air-to-ground, drone laser-guided missiles are weapons of war, and they are not. Why? Because they can be specifically targeted either to a vehicle, to a house. Now, there might be multiple people in the house that get killed, but there is discrete targeting of that. Weapon of mass destruction, there is no discrete targeting. It's designed to kill everything, to destroy everything in its path. So, weapon of war, right? All arms are weapons of war. And those folks that are nervous about people carrying arms or guns specifically, I mean, look at a person carrying a knife. They're carrying a big old Bowie knife, open. That's an arm. That is a weapon of war. Some people want to parse it and say, what's a hunting knife? Well, I don't know if you see the 6-inch blade or a 7-inch blade, but I'm not going to mess with that. Right? I can carry I use and train with a katana. I could carry that in public. Right? And that's a pretty long blade. People might look at me a little weird, but that is a weapon of war. But it is not a weapon of mass destruction, right? So weapons of war, weapons of mass destruction, not the same thing. All arms are weapons of war. That's what they were always created for, and that's what their intended use is. Now, there are countries outside of America, almost all countries outside of America, that have this notion in their law that there are offensive weapons, and they can classify anything as an offensive weapon. If you take a magazine and roll it up, now it's something that you could use to defend yourself. You are now going to be found guilty of using an offensive weapon. An offensive weapon in those laws outside America are those things that can be used to inflict harm on another. Those are not defend yourself, right? Inflict harm on another. That's called an offensive weapon. even if you were using something other than your hands and feet to defend yourself from deadly force, right? But that's outside of the United States, almost everywhere, almost everywhere. So um, there is this notion around that use of deadly force of proportionality, and that is, if somebody punches you in the face, you get to punch them in the face. Not in America. Unless you've agreed to mutual combat, if somebody punches you in the face, because many people have died from one punch, many in this country and elsewhere. Somebody punches you in the face and you don't want that to happen again, you can use deadly force to make sure they don't do it again. But that's in America. You can't do that in other countries, because other countries say, well, proportional, you get to punch them back. I'm not having it. So come back. Weapons of war, weapons of mass destruction, proportionality in the use of force and deadly force are not the same in America once you leave the country and go someplace else. So gives that some thought. If you have your thoughts about weapons of war, weapons of mass destruction, offensive use of a weapon. I hate when we say tool. It's not a fucking tool. It's a weapon that's can be used as a tool to do something else. But at the end of the day, it's a weapon. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'd love to hear your comments. If you like the content on this channel, please subscribe. Check your subscription, because I'm kind of stuck right now, and I don't know where all the people went. Check your subscription. Make sure the bell icon is selected. And as always, wherever you can, whenever you can, however you can, carry on.